thought the prize pool split for the top 5 will be 1,800 for first, 1,000 for second, 650 euro for third, then 350 for fourth position, and also fifth goes home with 200 euro. And then you can also see that each 6 races is also there to give the top 3 1,000 euro for prize money, and first gets 600, second gets 300, and third goes home with 100 euro. For the last time this will happen today on Tokyo, which was also the first circuit that we have had in the first season of the Trackmania Formula E Championship.
Yeah, indeed. It's a sort of homecoming for TMFE, as it all started way back in 2024, March 30th, 31st, and of course, April the 3rd was when the first 3 races in TMFE history happened in the streets of Tokyo. As you can see, the race calendar from this 24-25 season of TMFE, with Quick, of course, winning the season opener in Sao Paulo, followed by a very, very fortuitous win from Granadi amidst a rained-out second half of the Berlin E-Prix. Then it was business as usual with Diriyah, Miami, and London, all won by the flying Norwegian, that is Quick, as we head into the final race of the season. And as I said, homecoming for the TMFE Championship, which had its first 3 sets of races in that particular vicinity in Season 1, which we actually had the honor of casting 2 of the opening races on a live event in Poitiers during the Gamers Assembly, and it was a really, really fun time. It was a little bit difficult having to share a single mic between 2 people, but we made it work in the end, and it was...
Yeah, definitely.
It was, especially the first race was absolutely filled with drama, especially in the last lap. Oh, yeah, Scrappy won as Wasile time all the way through, and yeah, he just ended up running out of energy 2 laps short. Well, since then, he has progressed a fair bit. I guess we can say that, having managed to come to grips with energy consumption and having picked up 2 wins in races in the process. But ultimately, Championship Challenge has never really been quite where he was able to get really on the money compared to someone like Fick, who really has cracked the code from the word, almost from the word go. He took his first race win in race 3 in Tokyo last season around, and then it was pretty much the machine just turned on and just never stopped on winning since then.
Yeah, he really cracked the code there. And I mean, also on this map, I think it will be a bit more open, because the best pole time and also the fastest lap are from players that probably will not play today. We have Skandir setting the best pole time at race number 2, which was a 50.207, and then the fastest lap during season 1 was from Panda, a player that also plays for, used to play for Orcs Grand Portier Numalops at race 3, 45.710. It would be cool to see both of them playing today, of course, because they could deal some damage, but again, they probably used a lot of energy, and it really seems like Quick cracked the code with driving a little bit slower, maybe like 1 to 2 seconds away from those optimal times, but then is able to just get his energy across, and it's just on point in the race. But before that, we will have the qualification, of course.
Yeah, indeed. We are about to get started with qualifying. It is top of the hour currently in no matter which time zone you're currently living in and where you're currently watching this. Good afternoon, evening, or morning. I guess we can say that right away. Yep. And qualifying is set to start in about 30 seconds as the qualifying servers are starting to get spun up and getting ready to be populated with people. And we will be, as per usual, be onto a selected server which features some of the top championship contenders in this Trackmania Formula E Championship. And again, there are multiple servers running at the same time, and at the very end of the 15-minute practice/qualifying session, there will be a compilation of all the times driven throughout all servers to yield us the final classification, with the top 50 from qualifying being placed into top split, which is Division 1, as we call it in the Trackmania realm. And yeah, looking forward to see once again action on the streets of Tokyo. Of course, the Tokyo E-Prix, which hosts round 8 and 9 of the ABB FIA Formula E Championship in Season 11. The race made its debut in 2024. That was a brand new circuit back then, with just a single race being disputed in a close proximity to the Tokyo Big Site, which is Japan's largest international convention center, as qualifying is starting right now. Let's see who we have. We have the perspective from Quick. We're going to be following along with him for a little bit. Of course, Japan, home country of Nissan, which is not only fielding a work scene with Nissan Nesmo, but is also the powertrain supplier for the Neon McLaren FE team. And previous winners, of course, in Trackmania Formula E, we had Scrappy at the end of a dramatic final lap in race number 1, then followed by Wasal, the Frenchman, having won in race number 2, and Quick having taken his first win of the Trackmania Formula E Championship in race number 3. And in terms of IRL well winners, we have Maximilian Günther, German driver from Maserati MSG, who took the win in Season 1, and it will be very interesting to see if he manages to go back into his winning ways in Tokyo with a brand new team now that he is at DS Penske, and also taking into account that it's not just one race being disputed in Tokyo this weekend, but 2 races being disputed in Tokyo this weekend. That's right, it's a double-header in ABB FIA Formula E in Tokyo, as Quick sets the first reference time of a 56.648.
But now the first flying lap comes into play, so let's see what Quick is able to do there. And maybe we're gonna have the first German winner on the Tokyo E-Prix as well. It could be either Marius, which would be very unlikely, maybe if it's a full rainy race, or the likes of Granadi, but this map is super technical and it's pretty hard to drive, as we already talked about it before the stream went live. I mean, this map has less turns than London, but has a very hard and technical start to go by, and we see a great fight between Quick and Wizzy right now. Wizzy seems to be a little bit further ahead when it comes to the time. Will set a faster time than Quick because he crossed the finish line a bit later on lap number 1, and Wizzy will go not into the lead. It will actually be Wolsal, who's just behind them, who is now taking the first position for now. And also great turn here, goes super inside, but there you can see the 2 apexes working out differently. Quick had much more exit speed, but then Wolsal with a better approach in this turn. So that's the technicality, I think that's a word that you could use, that we were talking about just a couple of seconds ago.
Technicality is indeed the right word to use, and it is an absolutely brutal first sector, as we do see a bit of a send through the chicane of turn 9 and 10 for Quick. That it did not pan out because he barely brushed the wall on the exit with the right side of his car. But yeah, that first sector in on the Tokyo street circuit is absolutely brutal, especially that run from turn 5 to 6 and 7, because you have to set up a very specific neo slide. So basically turn in, then release the turn, and then turn and brake at the same time. Go very quickly back on your inputs to try and initiate the slide. And it's there is a non-zero chance that you actually mess up the inputs by a tiny fraction of a second, and you end up with a nose slide which sends you way out while you understeer way off in the corner. And there's not just one neo slide, there's probably like 2 or 3 neo slides just in the first sector alone. So yeah, this is very much a tricky track to navigate, and I suspect for some of the players that are using alternative input methods, it might be a little bit more of a torrid time to navigate that first sector, as we go along with Patroza for now, who will be clocking in a 50.383, so that's a personal best so far in this qualifying session, 1/10 exactly behind the time from Morsal, the Frenchman currently clocking in at 50.283, and thus going very close to his teammate Skandier's reference time of a 0.207 from Season 1.
Yeah. So also to quickly explain to you what a neo slide really is, because this might be a bit unfamiliar for the one or another person in the chat, especially in the YouTube chat, because a neo slide is something that you do if you are too slow or if you cannot steer enough into a certain direction, because in order to trigger a drift and your car kind of breaking out, you need to steer into the direction for a set amount of time, else you get a no slide, so your car will not slide and you will go into the wall. And you can avoid that by doing a neo slide, and for that you have to steer, then stop steering into the respective direction, and then brake and steer at the same time again. And doing this on a wheel is either you have to be very aggressive, or it's just impossible with Granadi's wheel setup, for example.
Yeah, indeed, as we're currently still following along with some of the players on the server, we did have a mention of how many laps are going to be on this race, and as you can see from the screen, it is going to be a 38-lap race on the streets of Tokyo, which is substantially longer than what we've had in the previous season, which was just a mere blitz race of 25
it was very short,
laps.
you know?
It was an absolutely, it was a sprint race through and through pretty much, and this has been, of course, absolutely readjusted for this second running of the Tokyo
Sprint with full
E-Prix.
points.
Yeah, and we're gonna be seeing how that actually turns out, because that means strategy is going to be way different compared to what it was in Season 1. We're hovering around, I'd say, the 2.5, maybe slightly higher, 2.5 to 2.6% per lap on average of energy consumption that it will be required to last up until the end of the race. As we follow along with Warl, the Frenchman, currently battling for P7 in the standings in this selected server, doesn't get the slide set up and goes headfirst at the apex of turn number 6. That is such a painful sight to see. Getting in those line is probably one of the most frustrating things that you can have in Trackmania. That means instead of having a successful flight initiated, where you have 4 skid marks, like you see from the perspective of Simon Luck, you only get 2 skid marks. And that means instead of being able to pivot the car to be able to get the apex properly, you just understeer to heck and run into the outside wall, the exit of the corner. Womp womp.
Yeah, and also not only do you lose speed, but also you get penalized. So that means that your car's acceleration is limited for 1 to 2 seconds, depending of what angle you crash into the wall. If you crash very, very thinly, like I just spectated Patrosa, and you just kind of just scratch the outside wall a little bit, you will just get a little bit of a slowdown from that impact, rather, let's say like this. But if you fully bonk into the wall, you will also get a penalty, so you really want to avoid that. And of course the speed deficit really goes into that, so it's kind of a double punishment in that way. You lose so much time with that, as I'm still following Patrosa right now, having a good fight with the aims here, going through the very, very like kind of hairpin SCK chicane section, and Patrosa makes a mistake, so he is behind and also gets overtaken by Wall, who got a very good turn. So let's maybe go into Wall's perspective and see what time he's able to drive here, because he doesn't have too much track left. James also with a mistake. Wall with a good ending line, has a lot of speed, but will this be an improvement for the Frenchman? Yes, it will be. A 51.07 it is.
It is a 51.07 that puts him right within reach of Besaker, who's just 50 milliseconds ahead in the standings in P6, and the German is going to have a lot to make up for after an unfortunate strategic decision in London that saw him battle with his car on the wet track with attack mode enabled, which means it was a handful, to say the least, when it came to navigating some of the twistier corners at XL London. Let's hope that this time it will actually work out for him, although with contacts like this on the outside of turn number, on the outside of sector number 3, it might not really work out all that well for him. That was around turn 15, 16, and also a contact with the inside of turn number 18. He opts to actually go for the respawn at the previous checkpoint and avoid crossing another checkpoint altogether, just so he gets a better run to start another flying lap. And this is something we're going to be seeing very often. We've already seen quite a bit in this qualifying session, and we're going to be seeing a lot more often in the second half of qualifying, as Besaker is struggling a little bit to navigate the final chicane, which is exceedingly tight compared to the fast chicane that we saw in turns number 10 and 11, for instance.
Yeah, but great practice session there for Besaker. I think this last turn is very important to get across, as you really need to squeeze out every possible kilometer per hour there and go as wide and just gather as much speed as possible through this turn. Also here, it can be quite important to nail that. But let's also talk about the attack mode, because this time it is not located at turn 16. It will be much earlier onto the track. I mean, we have the attack mode zone at turn 4, so much earlier, and here it will also be a different ending point of where the players will be leaving the attack mode again, because this will be 1 minute and 30 onto their car. And I think here it was also like somewhere close to the attack mode again, of course. I think it was also a long straight, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, I think if you do it right, you can exit turn, that's turn 8, so that's the very end of sector 1, the second 90 right, the second 90 left, sorry. Then if you do it properly, you can exit that with around 3 or 4 seconds to spare. Basically just rocket your way up until the S chicane of 10 and 11, if I recall correctly, from the races that we had in Season 1. And we'll have to see if that is, of course, confirmed in this Season 2 running of the Tokyo E-Prix. And actually, going back to Tokyo E-Prix trivia for you, this is one of only 4 only 4 single race events last season, with Mexico, Sao Paulo, and Jakarta. And of course, this is the first time that we're seeing a double header being hosted in Tokyo, much like it was the first time we saw a double header being hosted in Monaco. Monaco and Tokyo are both double header debuts in the Trackmania Formula E Championship, as they've always been single race events. So it's really interesting to see double the action over the weekend, and depending on how the weather turns out, it can mean very different races. I mean, I speak from experience, having watched the last 2 races of the season, well, the previous 2 races of the season that were in the Monaco E-Prix, and yeah, first race was dry, second race was still with a bit of a greasy track, so it kind of made for some interesting car control, and qualifying was absolutely rained out, which yielded some chaos during those qualifying attempts. And I sure do hope that for our drivers, rain is really not going to be that much of a factor, considering how much it wreaked havoc over the course of the season. Not only in London last time out, but of course in Berlin. We keep circling back to that particular race, but there's just no ways around it. Every time rain is there, it just delivers. And yeah, rain and Berlin was like a match made in heaven combo, so to speak, as we're currently sitting with 4 minutes and 37 seconds remaining in qualifying, and the mark from Mosal still remains unbeaten at a .283.
Yeah, I think Berlin really just kept on giving and set the bar very high in terms of entertainment factor when it comes to rain. Because yesterday, of course, we had some crashes here and there. Quick definitely crashed. Granadi did crash as well, but not really anything from significance other than the battle for third position. It was there between Wizzy, Wosal and also Patrose, and maybe the battle at the end between Patrose and Wosal was quite interesting to see. Also points wise, it will be great to see now in this race, so that's what we're definitely going to focus on right now. But let's see I'm not sure how the probability of rain is looking like today. So far there's no rain inside. Rain could also happen in the qualifying, of course. This is also a possibility, but also at any time of the race, but it will be announced beforehand. So that's why we have seen everybody except Berserker going for attack mode yesterday, right when the rain was announced. And also, I was spectating Granadi with the fastest lap for now, 50.257. Didn't look that fast from my perspective. We released a lot and also found some different lines just across the track here, where he just tries to release and does not drift. So Granadi with a good time there, and he's 26,000 ahead of Wosal.
Yeah, currently 26,000 ahead of Wosal. Will be interesting to see if we see anyone in the second, third, or fourth even retaliate from that pole position from Granadi that he just signed about a minute ago, as we are following along with the current championship leader, Kvik, 50 points ahead of Granadi, with one hand already on the title, as we've evocated a little bit earlier at the start of this stream. And yeah, it's very much his race and his championship to lose. We really, really pray that everything goes well, because it has happened in previous series before where technical gremlins have absolutely ravaged a race, and even worse, a potential championship. I think on my mind it's cast back to one of the series' ancestors, TMFL, where towards the very last 8 laps or so, we had a very unfortunate technical issue from Kvik, which yielded an instant retirement. In one of the early rounds of the championship. Was it NASCAR-ish
map? No.
Yeah, it was indeed that. I think it was Rocky Pass Stadium, if I recall correctly. But that's of course we're discussing an entire series altogether. But that's to give you a bit of the lore of Kvik. He has experienced the short end. He has been on the short end of the stick when it comes to technical issues. So here's hoping that he doesn't have those sort of technical issues in a championship-defining race where he absolutely has to reach the finish line, as we are soon to reach the finish line on qualifying with about 100 seconds left. And yeah, the time from Granadi currently sitting undisturbed. I don't see any potential improvements from either Wosal or Patrose at the moment, and even Kvik is just trying to get himself a little bit more comfortable with how much he can actually push on this track.
I think they're not really interested in pushing here as well. They just want to find themselves a nice and comfortable position, or just setting around and see how much energy they can consume. As Kvik was pushing here a little bit, actually. Just when I went onto his POV, he was 700s ahead just after the first sector, and unfortunately he crashed into the wall. Also, Patrose will not be improving, but he still has one more shot. Okay speed going into the last lap of this qualifying as well from his perspective. 57 seconds left, but look at this approach, so wide and without any drift, really tries to conserve as much energy as possible. So this doesn't look to me like a risky strat where he's able to beat Granadi with. So let's maybe go with Wosal, who is also not playing right now. Wall doesn't seem to be on a good time as well. Also gets the nose slide now. Then we have Wizzy 13 seconds into the lap, is not able to finish. Berserker just started his new lap, also not able to finish. James also very slow. What about Razi? Very cool to see Razi playing as well, also getting a nose slide. Simon Luck too far away, and then Marius also not able to finish. So I think that's all she wrote. Patrose also not able to finish. Maybe we can just focus on this last turn from Patrose here, but I think it will just be a very comfortable and cozy time, maybe around the 51, 52 area. Actually, it wasn't that slow considering his start, right? He was going for no slides and just very, very safe line. So good approach there, and hopefully to see more of that from Patrose and him doing some damage during the race.
Yeah, and hopefully he manages to get ahead of his main competitors that are Wizzy, Wosal, and maybe Granati if he has a little bit of luck on his side, because he is still locked in the battle for the top 3, especially between Wosal and Wizzy, and it started to kind of shift away from a position of force for the German, as we see the standings for our server. Granati with a pole position of a 50.257, then Wosal second, Patrose third, Fake fourth, World fifth, then Wizzy, Besaker, James, Razi, Simon Luck, and Marius follow to complete the rankings of our particular server. And now we do have again that little bit of downtime of a couple of minutes whilst all the times get compiled across all the servers to yield our Division 1 top split race that we will be witnessing in a few minutes, which is of course as good a time as ever to tell you that if you want to take the track or their cars for a spin, you can do so by heading over to the Formula E Club. You have access to the Formula E 25 tracks campaign, which of course comprises the Tokyo, London, Berlin, Diriyah, Sao Paulo, and Miami tracks, all tracks that you've seen in Season 2, and also you get access to the Formula E training room. You can actually take the game mode itself, TMFE, for a spin and actually get acquainted with energy management in a Trackmania race. And of course, we keep on selling them, but they are just absolutely amazing. We try to sell them, we sell them very much higher in terms of praise, because there is really nothing but praise about what you're about to see. Of course, the 12 liveries associated with Season 2, all Season 11 team liveries, as well as the championship show card cooked up by the one and only Antoscans, with the likes of Tagoya Porsche, of course DS Penske, the Andretti team, the Mahindra team that you see. You also could catch a glimpse of the Neon McLaren FE car a little bit earlier on. We also have, of course, Maserati MSG, and so on and so forth, that you can actually take a look at the Formula E Club itself. Make sure to go check it out. And if I may be able to do a slight diversion from talking about the Formula E Club and do a quick shout out to FIAFormulaE.com, because I've said that I've watched the last 2 rounds of the championship in Monaco, so round 5 and 6, and that would not have been possible. I was casting at the middle of the race, like it was happening, and I was casting something, and nothing would have been really possible without the race replay section on TMFE. Like in the video section, you have access to race replay for free. All you have to do is create an account there, but you do have access to not only the race replays from Season 11, but also from all 10 previous seasons of Formula E history. So if you want to rewatch the original race of Formula E in Beijing in 2014, you can do that. If you want to rewatch the first ever Tokyo E-Prix with Max Aguta taking the win in Season 10, you can do that too. If you want to rewatch, for instance, the absolutely epic finish line drift move by Lucas de Grassi in Mexico in Season 5, you can do that as well. And all you have to do is check out FIAFormulaE.com. It's all for free.
That's so cool. You could also then see the development of how tracks and also the generations of the car just have developed. So
yes, indeed.
That is very, very cool. So go
Gen 1,
and
Gen
it's
1
for
Evo,
free.
Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 3 Evo. It's for free. It's free, guys.
That's so cool.
It's absolutely free, and that's really what I find mind-boggling about this. Of course, you don't have just the race replay section. You have a lot more video content to snack on, including the race highlights if you're in a bit of a hurry, or if you want to peruse the site itself. Of course, you will have all the latest news about the ABB FIA Formula E Championship series itself. You can see all of the teams and drivers, get the current standings of the championship, and you can also get live timing and live radio commentary if you choose to follow the race through the website itself, along with the little driver tracker. I've actually used that to follow one of the races last season in Portland, and it was very, very easy to use.
Much different experience then, right?
Much different experience, and but still a very, very cool experience, and high quality, I might say. Again, all of this and more on FIAFormulaE.com, as the server is starting to get populated slowly but surely. We will be getting into our first division race in about 29 seconds. So, quick prediction.
Patrose. Just gonna go for it.
Oh.
Patrose is taking it today.
All right. Well,
I said it German, but I didn't mention Patrose, and I also did not mention Berserker. But I think Patrose is gonna win today.
I think I'm gonna go with the safe bet, and we're gonna be seeing another quick masterclass, and he's gonna go for a record 5th win of the season. No, but he has history potentially to make, because it might be his 5th win in 6 races, and that will be the new record for most wins in a Trackmania Formula E season that we've ever witnessed in the history of the championship, as we are about to go live. You can see that the grid is formed up with Granadi on pole, Wolsal in second, Patroza and Quick on the second row as we are, I think we went to the other side of the world for a second there with the logo being upside down, but nevertheless, everybody's amped up to get started. The tension is rising on the track as well as the driver's heart rate, and for the last time in Season 2, as the lights flick off, the field is let loose, and we are racing for 38 laps in the streets of Tokyo with Granadi and Wolsal, everybody completely emerging unscathed from the start-finish straight. And currently we're seeing that Wolsal is already going on the attack versus Granadi at the moment, and Patroza already under attack from Crick for P3, and Crick makes the move stick in turn number 4, 5, and 6. We approach that corner tentatively. We're not going for Neo slides just yet. Granadi still emerging from sector 1 in the lead, but Wolsal in close pursuit with so much more exit speed from turn number 8, and the move will be made in turn number 9 before the start of sector 2 and the run through the chicane.
Yeah, very good line there from Wolsal, but Granadi's defending here, but doesn't have too much speed here going into the last part of the track. Now we have the most tricky slide on the map here coming up very soon. This right-hander where you really need to collect a lot of speed into the last part of the track. Granadi goes very slow, as you can see there, and he will have a much better apex than Quick and Wolsal, but look at this. Quick from P3 to P1 in just one turn, and Quick again in the lead. Will this be another Quick show here? It looks to be like that, but right now we still have a fight going on between Quick and Wolsal, but Quick with much more exit speed here going into turn 5, 6, and now 7 as Wolsal also touches the wall. So Quick now with a little bit of a breather, and also Granadi catches up. A lot of speed for the German here as well as Wall. So a top 3 fight is developing, but Wolsal is sadly dropping out of it.
Yeah, Wolsal currently dropping out of it, maybe opting to go a bit more in race management. Meanwhile, War with a really superb start to his second lap. The Frenchman now finding himself in third, although quite a ways away from Granadi in second place, and not really in a position to make any kind of pressure build up on the shoulders of the German driver from Berlin International Gaming. But already you can see Granadi with that particular approach into turn 17 and 18 getting absolutely eaten alive by Worrell and Wolsal very temporarily, as we do see the first players who have taken attack mode with the likes of Marius 89, Technoway Music, Kopatic, and Dansky, who went as early as lap 2. As soon as attack mode was open at the exit of turn 4, they decided to go for the slingshot all the way around that fourth turn of the track, and with a little bit of a banking as well, and then slingshot themselves into 1 minute and 30 seconds of attack mode, as we do see Technoway Music make his way through and move up into provisional second. Of course, that will not last for long, as his attack mode will be running out in 20 seconds, and he will be forced to contend with defending of the attacks of those behind him that are more looking towards the longer game and delaying their activations towards the midway part of the race.
It's just so crazy to me because we had one lap driving, right? Of course, Mario started a bit further back, but he needed almost 50 seconds of attack mode to catch up to Quick just after one lap, which is absolutely incredible for me. So that really shows how fast Quick is, and maybe also like how much Marius is saving. But of course, Marius hardly makes that many mistakes, but he is right now the race leader, as maybe Quick could be a good POV to follow, because Technoway Music also went for a back-to-back activation here, as we have seen that doing or some people going for that in the previous race. But look at this, Quick already overtaking I think it's Kopatic. I'm not sure if that person name changed or if that is a new person, and I am not familiar with that one.
We've seen him yesterday. He's already been a part of the Trackmania Formula E
That's
Championship
nice.
on numerous occasions. So yeah,
very cool.
It is indeed a returning player. And among some of the other championship regulars that we should take a look at, well, Patroza and Granadi currently battling for P6, 7, 8, and also Wizzy, the wheelman from Wild, currently having a bit of a struggle on his hands, trying to get past Lightning McQueen, who's already activated both of his attack modes. Mati 1221, of course, currently trying to make the best of that attack mode activation that he went for very early on, but he exits so slow from turn number 8. He's only saved by the slingshot that attack mode really offers him. Mati and Wizzy just maybe trying to play the long game as Razi goes by as well, having taken his attack modes. Again, Razi is among that first wave of people who goes for very early activations of the attack mode. He doesn't really want to have to deal with it later on in the race and just relies on pure pace, but unfortunately he's just missing missing that little bit of energy management savviness, and also balancing that with correct pace. So when he tries to save a little bit more, he ends up leaving a lot of time on the table. So for the Croatian player, that might be a little bit harder to try and make an impact in the top places of the race, as we do see Curisotina, the Italian, also going for his second back-to-back attack mode on lap 6 to get past Kvik.
Had a very good race yesterday as well, and what I really want to say is I really like Razi's car skin. This is such a beautiful car skin, but sadly Razi...
Ooh, that's so painful. Like I was just spectating his POV as you were mentioning the liver, which is absolutely gorgeous looking indeed. But then,
you know what I wanted to say? Sadly, Razi is overusing energy, and then he just... oh my god!
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
Razi, but no, I didn't want to jinx you, bro.
It's going from bad to worse to even worse than worse, and this is something that you might see for the first time for those of you unfamiliar with TMFE. But the cones cannot be moved. They're solid in the realm of Trackmania, so you better avoid those cones like the plague, unless you want to decelerate from 350 to 0 kilometers an hour in an instant.
Grateful they're not plastic. That would be a whole different story. You could bump out of the track into oblivion with that. But Razi, sadly, not with a good attack mode sector here, and he completely lost all of his speed. In general, it seems like he doesn't feel that comfortable on some of those turns, which can sadly happen, as Curisotina is the race leader of, as of right now, ahead of Marius, and both of them do not have any attack mode left, as well as Dansky, who's on 3rd position, just behind Quick, who will probably overtake Dansky here very soon. But of course, this applies a little bit of pressure to Quick, but keep in mind, he still has both attack modes left, so nothing is lost just yet. And also Quick just effortlessly going up into the top 3, and I think it will only be a matter of time once he will overtake Curisotina and Marius just by sheer pace and without using the attack modes.
Yeah, indeed. He's very much taking it all well in his stride. Wolfsal went by, and yeah, he's already activated his first attack mode. 25 seconds left on the clock for that first activation on the part of the from Team Dawn. And yeah, I think he's more towards the middle of the road. Well, it's still pretty early on in the race. We're only on lap 7 and lap 8 when his attack mode was activated, but that's still a lot better than trying to go, in my sense, it is a lot better than trying to go for back-to-back activations very early on, because we've seen that most of the time it doesn't really work out that way. It only worked out in London for those that have expended their attack modes before lap number 10. Wolfsal is gonna refrain from doing that and just hold on to that second attack mode just a little bit longer, maybe to try and use it as a B for boost button whenever he's actually in close proximity to Kvik or potentially Patroza or likely Wizzy, as they are going to try to catch back up. And Wizzy also, again, dropping down to P13 for now, not having the best of starts, playing the waiting game, still 2 attack modes available, and actually looking pretty well off, almost on par with Curisotina in terms of energy consumption, maybe 0.2 to 0.3% down, but I feel like he's losing a lot of time on the table early on, and that's a lot of time that's going to be very difficult to catch up. It all sort of snowballs the deficit of pace that you accumulate over the course of these opening 10 laps.
Yeah, again, Wizzy with not the best start of the race, but who has certainly a good start is Granadi right now, also with his first attack mode activation, 7.3 seconds behind Curisotina right now, and has a nice fight with Yandro here going into lap number 10, but Yandro is not making it across. And also we see Quick with the attack mode. Yeah, very surprising first usage of the attack mode, but let's focus on Granadi and then jump to Quick just afterwards and see where both of those players will end up. So I think Granadi will overtake Wolfsal here in just a couple of turns, as Wolfsal has a nice fight with Marius 89 right now as well, which Granadi will just zoom by here very soon. As you can see, will overtake Marius just now. A lot of speed to that last part of the track here. And also Wolfsal gets eaten alive, and Granadi off to a great start, but I don't think it will be enough to stay ahead of Quick, because he has only 5 seconds left of the attack mode, but also the fastest lap being set by the player from Berlin International Gaming. Attack mode runs out here. Good exit, and also goes for it back to back, so Granadi will stay in the lead, and Quick now into the lead, overtaking, or gets a Quick. Curisotina gets overtaken there, so he's down to 4th position. So a lot of position changes have happened. Curisotina and Marius down to 4th and 5th.
Yeah, currently Curisotina and Marius down to 4th and 5th, and a lot of shuffling at the top 3, and Granadi going for the back-to-back as early as lap 11, and I'd be very curious to see if Quick does the same only 1 lap later than Granadi, or if he opts to try and delay that second activation for a bit longer, like Wozal is currently doing, as he activated his first attack mode back in lap 7 or 8, but he's currently holding on to those last 90 seconds, as Kvik will be registering the fastest lap of the race at 46.188, as is expected with attack mode activated on the part of the Norwegian, and he decides to take the normal way around of turn number 4, so he will not be going the back-to-back way of attack modes against Granadi's wishes, and unfortunately the Granadi wish was not to completely come to a crawl and at a stop.
Yeah.
I'm suspecting there was something going wrong in turn 5 and 6. I was focusing on Kvik's last few seconds of activation, and yeah, he crashed out pretty heavily off camera, which completely hampered his way back up the pecking order. He does eventually get back ahead of Kvik, but with just 15 seconds remaining. It could have been a much better buffer to take advantage of attack mode for the German, and that's such a wasted opportunity there.
But I think the race is still closer than we might think. I mean, it's like 2 to 3 seconds between Granadi and Kvik, if you include Kvik's attack mode, of course. So I think it will be a nice and entertaining race coming into play here. We still have 25 laps to go by, as the first couple of players are getting lapped. It's good to see a familiar name on here again. Reginald's 38th position is getting lapped by Kvik now, and also we see Samson, who's getting lapped as well by none other than Kvik and Granadi. And then there's also a larger gap already between second and third position, but we still have Kvik and also Wozal, who could theoretically catch up with that attack mode to Granadi, who has no attack mode left to his name, but is still leading the race. Kvik, however, coming closer. Good turn there as well, catching up 0.3 of a second just with one drift. That is very, very impressive. So the question is not if, the question is when will Kvik overtake Granadi.
Yeah.
And also first drops of rain coming into play. Now
that might be time to act for Kvik. He might be coming towards the right-hand side. Yep. Yes, indeed, he decides to get rid of his attack mode right away, and I'm suspecting Wozal will be following suit very quickly. Here comes the Frenchman, and he decides to pull off to the right-hand side as well. So we're going to be seeing also, luckily those that have 2 back-to-back attack modes are going to be getting rid of them as soon as possible. Patroza immediately executes that move into turn number 4. Same for Wizzy. Everybody's just going to be dumping those attack modes left, right, and center. Like, okay, 5 minutes left. There's 3 minutes of attack mode I need to use up. I gotta use them up now, and I gotta make a quick work of that. Otherwise, I might be in the same situation that Berserker was in the previous round. Nah, but
he also did.
Yeah, and he also decided to go for those activations pretty early on Berserker, and that's also gonna be actually doing a good service for Razi, even though he overused quite a bit. With the rain coming in, everybody will be forced to lift, including himself. So in terms of energy consumption, he will be right up until the end. Although the gap being built up, 23 seconds is going to be a lot to catch up. He's going to have to pull off a masterful drive in the rain. He has to become a Regenmeister, if I do say so myself, in order to actually get that. Yeah, Michael Schumacher or Ayrton Senna, if we want to mention another Rainmaster in the world.
Or Marius 89.
Or Marius 89, yeah, indeed. The Safe Meister himself could have a little bit of a part to play, although he was looking a little bit slow at the exit of turn 8 there.
Yeah, I mean, he was at Trackmania, at the Trackmania Formula League. He was exceptionally good in rainy circumstances, but then the others are just found their risk in there and were just a little bit faster than Marius. So maybe Marius just takes it safe, doesn't take unnecessary risks. But of course, it would be cool to see Marius pushing and going pedal to the metal again. But yeah, you name it. It is Razi who is very, very aggressive on his energy consumption, but it will not matter because at the rainy circumstances, he will go a bit slow. And also Berserker with the fastest lap here. I currently follow him, so great time there. 45.528 from Berserker, and he doesn't have any attack mode left. And I think that's a person we should definitely eyeball onto during this race when the first kind of droplets are hitting the road, because he is very good on that rainy circumstance, as well as Patrose is right now on 4th position. Is he able to catch up to Wozal and Granadi, because he still has 1 minute of attack mode left, and I think this could be enough to go up to P2. So my prediction wasn't that bad all along, but Patrose and Rain, not the best thing, even though he did quite good yesterday and got 4th position.
Yeah, but at least he's going to have to deal with one less variable, being rain plus attack mode. So it will be very much a case of trying to hold your own on the very wet streets of Tokyo that are about to come up in the next few minutes. But yeah, Patroza currently still sitting with 30 seconds of attack mode remaining. Yeah, easily makes way ahead of Granadi and Wosal the next target, and actually Wosal looking very slow as well compared to Patroza, who just sends it, fires it through the chicane of turns 10 and 11 here in Tokyo to move up into
Very
P2.
fast.
Very, very fast, and still has 15 seconds to spare of attack mode, so we'll be trying to get some inroads
good time.
on fixed advantage, and he's looking to be on a pretty good time as well. Can he get close to the Berserker time? Not quite. It will be a 45.8, still a high
Second
45
fastest.
is nothing to scoff at, but you were saying Berserker had a good time, 45.528, and that is none other than the brand new track record in the race by Berserker, some 2/10 almost ahead of Panda's mark established in Season 1. So great going from the German, who, as you said, is maybe one to keep an eye on, because now that he got rid of what caused him so much trouble in the rain in London, he might be off to some better odds in terms of actually getting back up to the top 6, top 5, maybe even score a podium spot, trying to go for his 4th career podium in Trackmania Formula E, as we do see from the perspective of Patroza, some people like Toybox kind of struggling with the approach to turn 14-15 and slamming into the outside wall in the exit, but all is well. Toybox is still going to be able to run and have some acceleration through that attack mode, and Toybox and Berg actually, Berg Souza, there you go. I was having trouble reading the name tag there because everything sort of blurs. Yeah, Berg Souza in 31st, Toybox in 46. Yeah, everybody's sort of running their own race, kind of like Paddy Productions there, a bit further behind, who's some 3.3 seconds ahead of Razi. We had Dansky, who's currently looking not too shabby, slightly on the overusage side in P17, but below 52%. He can still recover all that well during the rain. Also, LP Ensedi from B2 Esports is playing with his B2 Pride skin, I think it is. That is very lovely to look at. Also, we do have Von Feinstein, who is returning with P24 for German at the moment. Dennis also following in close proximity. Mighty 1221. Lightning McQueen currently sitting in P28. And otherwise, we do have Nano currently sitting in P33, trying to chase down Miracle and getting put a lap down by Wizzy. That means we're going to be moving back up the pecking order to follow up the perspective of the Wheelman from Wild, as we do see the skies darkening quite heavily here above Tokyo, close to the Tokyo Big Sight Convention Center. And Wizzy now has a lot of work to do still. 1.6 seconds down on Wosal, the nearest competitor, and he has a healthy buffer to Bimi. Bimi having a really solid start to the race as well in P6, as the sky is very dark now, and we're expecting the first raindrops in a few seconds.
Yeah, the first raindrops are starting in a few seconds. And also I see Road Tracks on the server, 48th, but 13 laps behind. I think he has a DNF coming into play, but it's raining. The track is getting slippery. Be careful. So the rain effect is coming into play very soon. But what I really want to say is very good race from Patroza thus far. Only 7 seconds behind Quick. So you love to see that. And you can also see him driving very careful around those turns. Overusing, but this will not really matter too much, as well as Granadi, who's overusing. All of them know that the rain will last a bit longer than just 5 laps. Probably, but I mean, it could also be just a short shower here, and it could be 1, 2, 3 laps, which would be a nice debate actually, and everybody just went for the overuse and then they have to adapt. But I don't think that. What I also want to mention, Wizzy, P5, not the best start for him, but really was able to come back. Also was a bit more aggressive on his energy consumption here, also overusing his energy. And then Bimi, again, very good season for him. 6th position in this race, so really big shout out to the Russian player. A great performance from Bimi all along through the entirety of the season, also in this race.
Yeah, currently in this race, he's looking very solid, and still having a somewhat healthy, well, I say healthy, all is relative, of course, but 1.6 second buffer compared to Warl, so he's very much playing a conservative race that is paying off well for him. Meanwhile, Wizzy has already made the junction versus Wosal, battling for P4, going side by side, almost into turn 1. Wosal goes a bit wide, and what a setup for turn 2 and 3 from Wizzy as we go over the slight little ramp down to turn number 3. Great setup from the move, sails in the dummy on turn number 1, and then gets it back at the Frenchman into turn number 2. Fantastic work, and he's already starting to streak away slowly but surely, even though the gap is somewhat equalized in terms of speed at the exit of turn number 8. But the Wheelman from Wild, once again having a really inspired drive so far in the very beginning of this wet patch on lap 22.
Yeah, 13 seconds behind Quick, and then we have Patroza actually gaining some time to Quick. I think it was like roughly 7 seconds of a difference between first and second, right when the rain has started, and now Patroza 5.4 seconds away of it. So are both predictions first and second places. I think this could not just couldn't be any better. And
Granadi
also
into the wall.
And Granadi into the wall, yeah, he has lost a lot of speed with that, and Wizzy coming closer with that as well. But also that means that Patrosa has a little bit of more room to breathe now to that third position. And also, I think he could overtake, let me actually see, how many points does he have in the standing? He is at 406 points. He could definitely overtake Wosal here. He's 4 points behind Wosal.
There is definitely a lot of movement that could still happen. It's 90 points for second place, 86 for third, 82 for fourth, and then 79, I think it is, for P5. So there is going to be quite a significant consequence in terms of the final placings when it comes to actually finishing second or fifth in those top of the rankings. As
or second or fourth.
Yeah, second or fourth, or even fifth in the standings, as Wosal is not that far off, really, all things considered, considering the conditions, as Patrosa continues to tiptoe his way around the streets of Tokyo on lap 24 and continues to actually grappling some time back from Kvik. Look at this, he's underneath the 5-second mark now. Very, very good driving in the wet, even though that was not really as strong so as we advocated earlier on in the race. It's looking like it's really clicked on for Patrosa, who's trying to pull a Barcelona 96 in the streets of Tokyo there.
Yeah, so Patrosa, I'm very much surprised of how well he controls his car through the race here and through the rain of Tokyo. This looks absolutely beautiful, and he doesn't make any mistakes. I hope I didn't jinx him, but this just looks absolutely beautiful, as he's only 5 seconds away, 4.5 seconds away from Quick. So he catches up every now and then here through the track, and now he slides out. But I think it's not the worst way to slide out, because you have to slow down in that turn anyway. So of course you lose a bit of time, but not too much in comparison to a long sector like here, for example, when you slide out, and then you will not have any speed to work with. So it is an okay mistake to do. Of course, still some time being lost, but better there than anywhere else on the track, I guess.
Yeah, indeed. And also that was a very light back tap with the left rear, so all in all it was not all that damaging to Patrosa's race, and that also gives a little bit of room to breathe for Kvik, who was maybe starting to look a little bit closer at the totem on the left-hand side of the screen, seeing the gap slowly but surely shrink over the course of the last few checkpoints. But with Patrosa's slight touch, it has now risen back up to 5.5 seconds of an advantage for the Norwegian ahead of the German. And Granadi currently still sitting in P3, putting Linko down a lap. Currently Linko having an alright stint in the ring, currently sitting in P17 and battling with her sparring partner for that race being LP and Sebi, although she is a little bit slow from the exit of turn number 3 there, so she's going to be letting Sebi go, and also will be put a lap down by Wizzy in P4, who continues to lead the charge against Granadi and continue to try and whittle that gap back down. 1.5 seconds between third and fourth. Wizzy trying to clinch a very, very warranted podium so far with how he is behaving and how his car is behaving in those tricky conditions.
Yeah, but let's go with Berserker, actually, a person that I already mentioned. Yeah, maybe let's just go somewhere else, because he literally just crashed in the same turn where Patrosa crashed as well. So maybe we're gonna leave him alone and see what he's able to do at the end, because he's on P10 and I don't want to cast a curse him. Let's go with Wizzy, as you are on him as well. He's currently roughly 2 seconds behind Granadi, but it also seems like Quick made a small mistake, because everybody kind of caught up to Quick here. So this looks like it will be a race against the clock for Quick, as he should avoid any mistake. And it looks like he's a bit shaky, because Patrosa caught up this 1 second that he has had as a mistake just again, and he's only why is this happening today? Like,
I wasn't even on his perspective. I was still following along with Wizzy, and then only then, after your pause, I saw the name tag from Patrosa standing still. I'm like, did he just
so Granadi up to P2.
Granadi up to P2, and I'm suspecting that was the same crash in the same chicane that Razi had his full stop in the drier part of the race. So
just a little bit earlier in the turn.
Very unfortunate. We were continuing to praise the work of Patrosa so far in this race. It all came undone with just one simple deviation of trajectory and one unlucky encounter with the cone that is not made out of soft plastic, but that is made out of concrete in Trackmania, which is a very, very painful encounter, promoting Granadi up to second and Wizzy up to third as he continues to pick his way through traffic and keeps visual contact with Granadi. There you go, the junction is almost made. 1.1 seconds between the German and the British driver from Team Wild, and everybody almost on the same page in terms of energy consumption in the top 5. Just 0.7% of a difference between 1st and 5th. Mosile, unfortunately, a little bit too far down to be able to get any kind of impactful decision on the final standings here. 17.1 seconds down on the leader, and some, well, almost 7 seconds down on Patrose. And as we go towards the last 10 laps, it looks as though Quick is starting to put his second hand around the championship trophy.
I mean, this is just the exact same top 5 position as we have had yesterday, no? If I see that correctly. So sadly that Patrose made that mistake, but that's definitely something he can catch up to, because it's only 1 second between 2nd and 4th position. So this battle is not over, it's far from being over, and Patrose catches up, and he could certainly get that 2nd position to his name and win 300 euro at least. But it seems like Quick is way too consistent, and of course Patrose was pushing, was going out of his comfort zone and was trying to make a move, but at the end he made that mistake, did not land on his back, didn't have to respawn. So lucky for him that he only lost like 5 seconds ish, so that was okay for him. But then of course you need to be focused, because usually if you then drop from P2 to P4, you're like discouraged, you are, maybe your mental is a bit in the mud. But this didn't seem to affect Patrose at all, because he catches up to Wizzy. As you can see, he's just 1 turn ahead. Wizzy not with a good apex in this turn, so Patrose will have a bit more speed coming out of it. So it is roughly 0.4 of a second here, 0.5 between them, if I see that correctly. No, it's actually 1 second, but Patrose with much more speed here again. And also and Granadi not with the best amount of speed here as well, but it's so hard to spectate that because the cars are going so slow in comparison to the normal circumstances.
Yeah, comparison to the dry, effectively the speed is well
just
reduced.
Have all different lines.
Yeah, whilst you were actually talking about Patrose's race and how he was able to be pretty much resilient despite those little mistakes that cropped up in his race, I was taking Wizzy because in the previous lap he was almost within the rear bumper of Granadi's car, and now the turns have tabled for the Englishman and were slightly unturned for that particular corner, thanks to a wide exit and a slow exit from Patrose that are allowing Wizzy to move up,
Patrose
back up
again.
Good, a little bit of room to breathe, and it seems as though he slid out Patrose at the exit of turn 3, but it seems as though it's a very easy corner to get caught out in the rain because of the way that you're actually approaching the corner. You're approaching on a downhill slope, very much analogous to what is actually in real life on the run towards 2 and 3 on the Tokyo Street Circuit in the ABB FIA Formula E Championship. It can be very easy to get the car a bit too unsettled in the wet because the rear end is so light and the car is so responsive to just a bit too much attack angle, and it's very easy to make that mistake and end up sliding out into the outside wall.
Also, there's a small bump or just a little bit of an elevation change that we have beautifully seen now at Wizzy's point there.
That's what I've seen. There is a slight slope on turn 2 and 2. Actually, we're going to be going back with the perspective of Wizzy, as we're going to be seeing, navigating through turn 1 and 2, goes for the clinical approach, gets a much better run in there.
Yeah, here, for example.
Through turn 3, you can use the elevation change to touch. Granadi the touch on the outside. That's so unfortunate for him. And Wizzy gets promoted up to P2. The wheelman from Team Wild is ahead of the wheelman from Berlin International Gaming. I was about to make the point that in the dry you can use that sort of slope and elevation change to pitch the car into the corner to get the slide around turn 3. But here you must avoid that at all times. And unfortunately, yeah, some players got caught out and some got caught out a little bit later on as Granadi was casing points.
Yeah, you want to stop steering at this point and just have no angle over it. But nice fight here for that second place. Granadi with the attack again, going up to P2. But also look at this. They're coming dangerously closer towards Quick. Only 5.3 seconds, and we only have 7 laps left. So I think Quick is definitely not safe here at all. Now it is 4.8 seconds. It seems like Quick, I mean, we have not really focused on him too much because this battle for second place is just so interesting. But it seems like Quick is struggling a bit here by the looks of it. But also now Granadi with a slide out, and Granadi goes into the wall, goes for a respawn, and Granadi down, then goes for another mistake. Granadi down to 4th place, and now we have proof of this theory. Actually, respawning is enabled, and Granadi all the way down to P4 and dead on this top 3 battle. Patrose has a huge gap now towards him. Actually, it's 2 seconds, but still, he will not play a role for that second place battle. And now Wizzy trying to catch up to Quick here. It is 4 seconds though, but it's only 6 more laps to go. Can Wizzy take it or not. It will be very hard though, and he definitely needs to rely on a mistake from Quick.
Yeah, he definitely needs to rely on a mistake from Quick with 5 to go now as we cross the finish line. And I guess for Patrose it was a little bit of a case of Schadenfreude, I guess, with the mistake from Granadi at the exit of turn number 4 with that full stopping into the outside wall. He slid out. We were on this POV when that happened, as we do get the warning that clear weather is coming back, although I'm suspecting it's coming a little bit too late to make any sort of impact whatsoever.
Maybe like 1 or 2 laps,
of player. Yeah, it might be 1 or 2 laps of dry running that might be left, but I think that might still be a little bit too late to really enable Wizzy, for instance, to really retaliate to Kvik, whose gap has whittled down to 2.4 seconds. The rain is ending. You'll be able to push soon, as the race engineer tells on the radio, and we do see that Wizzy has decided to jump up a bit.
1.5 seconds.
It goes down to half a second.
Half a second.
What is this race? And that Wizzy is cooking up. The track is drying very heavily now. Games, unfortunately, clipping the wall on the inside of turn number 18 of the chicane. 4 to go, and Wizzy more than ever potentially looking at his very first race win in Formula E against all odds, as the track is now starting to dry up. The rain has completely cleared out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best opportunity for Wizzy now to win a race, but he has the strongest opponent in front of him. It is Quick, but he's only half a second clear off of him, and we have 4 more laps to go. And yes, Patrose could also be... could also overtake Wosal here in the actual ranking. It is 4 points between them, but let's focus on who's going to win this race, because with that, Wizzy could lock in that 3rd position in the championship ranking. But it seems like Quick is just getting smaller and smaller in the distance, and he moves away from it. But again, 1 mistake and he's out on that one, and Wizzy will go into the lead. But nonetheless, very good performance from Wizzy thus far. He has had a very shaky start again. I think found himself in like top 15 position after the first couple of laps. I mean, did not really activate the attack mode, but he again struggled and found himself back into the race now, and now is on 2nd position. Hardly made any mistakes in the last couple of laps, and that is much deserved. And look at also Patrose and Wosal, only 1 second between them. Like, we have 2 very, very good fights in the top 4 happening right now.
Yeah, indeed, and they're going to continue to develop in the last 2 laps of this race. And for Wizzy, it's very much a repeat of the last race in London, where it seemed also shaky at the start, dropping down to the midfield, losing the best part of 20 seconds before coming back very, very gently to finish a creditable 3rd in that last race that we witnessed, of course, at XL London. Quick now with 2 to go. Lap 37 out of 38. And Wosal unfortunately slowing down as well and allowing Patrose to escape, and also Granadi maybe to get a little bit of an inkling, but he's still too far back.
Yeah, he's too far back to have a saying here, as Wizzy also loses so much time here to Quick. It is 2 seconds now of a deficit, so I think for the 5th time in this season out of 6 races, it will be another win going to Norway to Quick. 590 out of 600 possible points for him. That is just mind-boggling. What an absolute insane performance from Quick, just showing up and getting onto the podium. Actually, his worst finish was 2nd position, which is just crazy to think about in 6 races.
Yeah,
like what the hell?
Absolute consistency and an absolute dominant season, as we are now starting the 38th and final lap of the Tokyo E-Prix, and by proxy the final lap of this 2nd season of Trackmania Formula E, along with the championship leader and current race leader going the tight way around turn 4, then turn 5, 6, that setup. We don't go for the neo slide. We don't even need to. We just need to go for the safer approach. Lift and coast through the corner if you need to. 6, 7, and 8, and now you go through the fast sections of turn 9, the kink at turn 9, and then the chicane turn 10 and 11. We're going to be seeing a send there. Oh, we do see a slight send from Quick, which was risky. Then turn 12 goes a little bit wide on the exit. Turn 13, 14, and the start of sector number 3. Just a few corners remaining for the Norwegian to slot in a record 5th win of the season, a brand new record in Formula E. And as he exits turn number 18, and as he crosses the start-finish line, Quick will become a 2-time Trackmania Formula E champion in the streets of Tokyo. Wizzy finishing a best ever 2nd in TMFE, 2.5 seconds behind, and Patrose will finally finish on the podium in this race. Wosal in P4, Granadi, it was looking so promising, but mistakes left, right, and center have condemned him to P5. 5. Warl will be currently sitting in P6, 3.4% remaining. Everybody will be able to make it just fine, but Warl in P6 has also quite the gap over Berserker Marius, indeed, in P8, and it looks as though we are starting to see, we did see Korisutina was the first lap count across the line, so up until 8th was still on the lead lap.
Yeah, so Marius with a great performance. Berserker also getting that 6th position, overtaking Wall in the end here by the looks of it. So I did not see that one coming. So Berserker with another great finish, Marius on 8th, then we have Korisutina on 9th, James on 10th, and I think it was Bimi on P11th. So also a good finish for him, even though the rain did not really play into his cards. But what we can say is Granadi with that securing his 2nd position as well. So congratulations to Granadi of winning 1,000 euro from the prize pool split of the regular season. Then Quick, of course, in first, absolute dominant performance. And I think Patrosa will overtake Wosa because it is more than 4 points of a difference between 3rd and 4th, if I have that correct from the top of my head.
I do think so.
And then it is Wizzy with an absolute stellar performance. I think he could have even won the race with a better start into the last Tokyo E-Prix, getting 2nd place and also securing 3rd position, winning 650 euro from the regular season standpoint and also 300 euro from that race. So good Thursday evening for Wizzy.
Yeah, great Thursday evening for Wizzy, and a great season all along from Quick. I mean, I was briefly flashing the in-game chat. This is something that I don't usually do in those broadcasts, but I wanted you to briefly see the recognition from the peers that were racing against Quick tonight. The likes of Wosa, the likes of Patrosa have been coming in to congratulate Quick, because that is, of course, an absolutely praiseworthy performance throughout the entire season. 5 wins out of 6 and a worst finish of 2nd, which came in crazy. Berlin race 2. Just, it is absolutely mind-boggling to think about. 590 points collected, as you said, over the possible 600 that were up for grabs in this season of TMFE. And if that's a statement of anything else, I mean, that's a statement to really the dedication, the actual consistency, and also just how much of a wheelman Quick is. So for that, I think you guys can do a round of applause in the respective chats and congratulate the Norwegian, because he has earned it. Well, fair and square. He also earned it fair and square in Season 1, but Season 2, that was just emphatic, absolutely emphatic end of the season, and really commanding season from start to finish from the Norwegian.
Yeah, what a stellar performance from Quick. We're also gonna rate him. I'm already gonna say that beforehand. But I think before we close out the stream, I really want to say thank you to Ubisoft Nadeo and also to Formula E in general for just providing us with this great opportunity of a nice collaboration. And thank you so much for that, for once again asking us to provide a broadcast to this event. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and on my end, I would also like to thank the teams over at Ubisoft Nadeo and Formula E for putting together Season 2 of the Trackmania Formula E Championship. It was just as much as a pleasure to cover the races and be in charge of the broadcasting and production as it was in Season 1, and I want to shout out a couple of people as well, those that were responsible for putting the TMFE game mode together, Boss Bravo and Nano. Again, these guys are doing absolutely wonderful work with the in-game interface that was actually, of course, being put in for this particular series. And of course, a much needed thanks and thank you to everybody who tuned in, no matter if it is here on Twitch or on the official Formula E YouTube. And we hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as we did, providing it to you. As far as what is next for us, well, if you want to get some info on that, you can follow us on our socials at TMG Geek and at Luckers Turbo on
Lucky Turbo.
And at Lucky Turbo, I guess, on our various socials, be it Twitter, be it Instagram, or whatever it is in terms of other platforms. And yeah, we are looking very much forward to see you again on other competitions in the Trackmania realm very, very soon. And on that, I think it's time to, well, get everything set up and ready to congratulate the race winner for tonight and Season 2 Trackmania Formula E champion. That is, of course, none other than Kvik. Thank you very much once again for tuning into the season of Trackmania Formula E. I'm Thomas Mangozi, aka G-Geek. This has been Kylo Dvish, aka Luckers Turbo. Much love, be kind, stay safe, and until next time, Godspeed, people!